Hey, Brandon here with Bees Barbecue, and today we are doing a tri-tip. Now this is a cut I love. Always turns out super tender, super hard to source in my area. This particular tri-tip, as you'll see, is only about, 1.675, so it's just a little over 1.5 pounds. It's not gonna take long to cook. These things usually come between 1.5 pounds to 2.5 pounds. I prefer bigger ones, but just for me and the wife tonight, this will be plenty. We're gonna have some baked potatoes as well. Now, in my experience, these come trimmed fairly well. You'll see on this one here, the top is all trimmed up pretty nice. I don't need to take any silver skin off. There's no silver skin to take off. There's nothing really to do on the top. Top's fine. Flip it over, you'll see there's a little bit of silver skin over here. I'm probably gonna take that off because there's none on the rest, and I want this to get some nice seasoning on all of it. So I'm just going to take my knife, I'm just going to cut as little as humanly possible off. Got in a little too deep there, a little too deep, not a big deal. I'm also going to take and trim this. Get under and get that silver skin off. And now I get to wash my hands and change my gloves because I'm a dummy and, only put one on because, yeah, so BRB. Now, instead of keeping changing gloves and all that, I'm cooking for family. Hands are going to do. They're freshly washed, and I'm going to wash them in between touching the meat and anything else. Only going to be touching the meat with my left hand for now. Now with a tri-tip, you can see kind of why it's called a tri-tip here. It has three main areas: tip, 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 tri-tip, triangle, Illuminati meat. Anyways, on this you can kind of see the way the grains run. They kind of do this, as if my hand is necessary to show you because you can't see. So as you're cutting this thing, you're going to want to cut this way, this way, this way, this way, this way, this way for now. And you could just keep cutting like this. What I'm going to do, and you'll see it later, is I'm going to take right here and just cut that. And then I'll cut this part that way. So you have to be careful. This is just like cutting a brisket, if you will, or really any red meat. You want to do this method. You want to cut against the grain. It's going to give you a more tender bite, and of course, it's just how it's supposed to be done. So do it. So first things first, I'm going to season up. I'm just going to put some salt. This is kosher salt all over it. No binder. I don't think it needs a binder personally. I'm not of that mindset of, oh, I gotta have a binder on it. You can use a binder. Lee and Parents would work great, or any Worcestershire sauce or anything like that. You can use olive oil. You use just about anything. Flip it over. I'm not too worried about the sides at this point. What I'm doing now is kind of like a light salt brine. So I'm gonna leave this out on the counter uncovered for about 10 minutes. And we'll come back after 10 minutes. And you can do two things after this light salt brine. You can either leave the salt on it, because you're going to want salt on it anyways, or you can wash it off. Some people recommend washing the salt off and then applying a new coat of seasoning. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave the salt on it for about 10-15 minutes, let it sweat it out. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of fresh ground pepper, if you can catch some light in that. This is just fresh ground, literally just ground it. It's sent to its room for a while now. It can't come out until I put it on. That was bad. I'm gonna apply a little bit of garlic powder. And then there's a McCormick all-purpose seasoning. It's garlic, herb, black pepper, sea salt, and some onion, and amongst other things. So yeah, just gonna let this sweat out for a little bit and we'll be back. All right, and wouldn't you know, it hasn't rained in 2 weeks and it's raining right now. But our meat's pretty much sweated out. Don't have to worry about that. Look at that. Ooh, 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 yeah. All right. I'll only be touching the meat with my left hand and seasoning with my right. So I'm gonna put on some fresh crushed black pepper here. And it's okay if you get the seasoning pretty thick on here, because these are gonna be thin little slices that we're doling out for the actual portions. So it doesn't matter if you get it on a little thick. Honestly, to be able to actually taste the seasoning, it's gonna have to be thick. Add a little bit of our garlic, even though we're gonna get some of that other rub. Now here's the point where if you want to, you can leave it like this. Salt, pepper, garlic, that's the classic trio, right, on beef. You can cook it just like this, it'll turn out great, but I want a nice little, I want a texture to my crust. And a little bit more flavor than salt, pepper, garlic. That's why we're gonna go with, like I said, this McCormick all-purpose rub, or seasoning, they call it seasoning. You know what the difference is between a seasoning and a rub? Absolutely nothing. Anyways, we're gonna do the same process with letting it sweat out for a few minutes. So you can do a number of things in this resting period time while you're letting your meat rest. I'm gonna go fire up my pit. I know it takes about 20-30 minutes. We're cooking on the Lone Star Grillz offset today. I'll see you guys in just a minute when we put this stuff on. Now, I will admit, I've never used this before, so I don't exactly know how it's gonna turn out. But it smells good, and it should provide a nice little crust, which is what we're going for. You want that crust. As I said earlier, feel free to coat the thing. You want it. A good thick crust on it. Now a tri-tip, you're not gonna get that beautiful color on it like you normally would a piece of beef that sits on for, you know, 6, 8, 12 hours. This thing's gonna cook really fast. I'm estimating about 45 minutes, maybe an hour at most. My internal temp I'm shooting for before the sear, because I like it a little bit more done. The wife doesn't. It's gonna be like 125, almost 130. I'm gonna go with 125 though. And then sear it on each side for about 2 to 3 minutes at most. And I'm gonna be doing this all 100% on the Lone Star Grillz today. I've got the rack in above the firebox, just warming up the entire cook. So when I put this thing on it, it's gonna sear nicely. It's gonna leave nice little sear marks. And we'll have us a nice piece of meat. I'm shooting for an overall internal temperature of 135 by the end. I know that's a little high, and some of you are going, but we don't eat rare around here. We eat medium rare at most, but I'm shooting for a good medium is what I want this thing to be. The next thing is we're gonna put this in the fridge, and we'll pull it back out when we're ready, when our pit's all fired up. I'll see you guys then. Okay, we're back, pit's up to temp. That's hot. This is how she looks. Right there, right in the middle. Push this back in. That's all there is to it. We'll check back when internal temperature reaches about 125. See you then. All right, we've reached, what are we at? 122 internal. Let's go ahead and sear this thing. All right, I'm gonna open the lid and then I'm gonna move the camera. So bear with me. That's what we got. Look at that nice hunk of meat. We'll go ahead and take this probe out. Look at how tender this thing is. We're gonna sear it on each side for about 2 minutes. Starting my timer. I'm gonna open my vent all the way. Let that breathe. It's been flipped, and now it's back on for another 3 minutes. All right, we're coming up on the end of our 3 minutes, and I'm reading giant hand.
The beacons are in the city! The beacons are lit! Gun knuckles for 8!
It's done. All right, now we're just gonna take it off and wrap it in butcher paper. Hey, it's me again. You could choose to wrap it in whichever medium you want. Butcher paper is what I prefer for this. You could use aluminum foil, or you could just leave it out on your cutting board resting for about 15 minutes. But we're gonna let her rest for 15 minutes, and I'm gonna see you guys inside afterwards. Moment of truth. Got my nice slicing knife here. Now with tri-tip, you're gonna wanna cut it super thin. So we're gonna start down here at the end, and we know which way the grain's running. Oh. You're gonna want to cut it about brisket thin here. And then also, like I said in the beginning, we're gonna cut it about right here. Let's see what she looks like inside. Oh, perfect medium. This just so happens to be my birthday / anniversary dinner. Because believe it or not, my birthday and anniversary are on the same day. Let's try a piece here. Super tender, nice and wiggly. Look at that, just pull apart. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Y'all, if you can find tri-tip in your area, it's super easy to cook. It doesn't take long. Alright, I might mess around eat this whole thing. My wife might not get any. If I did that, she wouldn't be happy. So let's go over the process really quick. It took us, man, I'm sorry, my mouth's watering. It took us, what, about an hour and a half to cook at most. Not even that long. I took it up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, internal, and then I seared it for 3 minutes on each side, and that brought it up to 140. Now, if you want to do the same thing with a lower overall temp, bring it up to about 110, maybe 115, and sear it for 3 minutes on each side. And that'll bring you up to a nice 130, 135, if you want it a little more rare on the inside. That's all there is to it. I prefer the reverse sear method, which is what we did today. And then afterwards, you wrap it in butcher paper or aluminum foil, or just let it sit on your cutting board and rest for 15 minutes. Imperative you let it rest so that all those juices it was pushing out get sucked back in. You should do that with any piece of meat, not just this, or not just beef. So I'm gonna go ahead and slice this stuff up and get to eating. Guys, thanks for watching today. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, make sure you hit that dislike button twice. I am Brandon from Bees Barbecue. Until next time, keep your lid shut and your smoke thin. Have a good one. Again, I'll be touching the meat with my left hand, if you will. Socks and Crocs.